Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the My Greek Island podcast with your hosts, George Tsounyas
and Maria Petraku. So what are we chatting about today? If you follow us on Instagram, you will know that in the summer of 2024, we spent time on the island of Rhodes. And the time has come to introduce you to that island.
Yes, and Rhodes or Rhodos in Greek, we have a lot to say about this island. So this is just a part one and a general introduction to the island because we're going to have other things to say for sure. So stay tuned for that. But before we get into it, if you're not following us on Instagram or TikTok, I know we say it every time, but there are many listeners that are not following us. So pause what you're doing, stop time, and head over to the gram or TikTok and follow us on the handle, which is at My Greek Island.
Exactly. And to support the show, please like, subscribe, drop a rating, review, share with your friends, family, everyone that you know who will enjoy it, because it does help us reach a wider audience and keep coming back with more content. And if you want to support us further, you can sign up for our Patreon, where you can access ad-free episodes and exclusive content.
Yeah.
We're good to go?
We're good to go. So I think without further ado, let's get into today's Rhodes episode.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the My Greek Island podcast, dedicated to take you, the wanderlust, on a journey through Greece.
There are 227 inhabited Greek islands. Which one will you visit next?
My Greek Island, with your hosts George and Maria.
Okay, so Island of Rhodes. One thing that we hear so often from people we talk to is, I went to Rhodes when I was a child, or some of our listeners have reached out and said, oh, I've been to Rhodes many times, and they said often it's followed by been to Rhodes and I would love to go again. And it's safe to say that if we didn't have to try other islands for the purpose of this podcast, we'd probably be going again this year. Isn't that right, Maria?
Yeah, that's true. Although I do hope to go towards the, I guess, like shoulder month this year, like maybe October, early November.
You didn't tell me that. Am I waiting for my invite still, or have you just thought about that?
I think you've
now?
Just booked too many holidays, George, so you're not available to potentially come with me.
Unavailable. And I mean, also, full disclosure here, we were super lucky on the trip because our trip combined so well with some of Maria's friends that happened to book at the same time, who surprised me, didn't surprise you, and they just rocked up in this restaurant and you were looking all shady. I'm like, who's coming? Like, what's going on?
And it's not the first time that they've rocked up
It's
on our
not.
holiday
It's
accidentally.
I wonder if the stars were aligned this year. But also saw some of my friends who are now become your friends.
Exactly.
So hello, Zoe and co. So it was Zoe, my friend Zoe, her husband Simon, Rosalie, and her parents, Judy and Costas, and they've got a new addition to the family who was
so
there.
we need to go to Rhodes again so we can
now that
spend
Emily's
time.
been born.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So back to Rhodes. So it's located in a cluster of islands called the Dodecanese. And if you know, we are getting around those islands one by one. I think we're probably in the double digits, or combined, we probably are around 10, or by the end of this year we will be, hint, hint, not saying where else we might be going this year, but it probably will be in that cluster somewhere.
Exactly. I mean, we've done a lot. We've done a lot of the Cyclades over the years, and
the Dodecanese. Cyclades you've done without me, hun.
Exactly, and you've done a few without me as well. So, yeah, we've just literally taken the Dodecanese and we're ticking them one by one, aren't we? Over the past couple of years.
We really are. So, some interesting facts about Rhodes. So, Rhodes town. The medieval old town is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and yes, it's a must. It's beautiful. You can get lost down those streets. The island, known as the Island of the Knights, due to its history with Knights of St. John, It was also once the home to Colossus of Rhodes, one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. And another thing, so you might be going there because of the sun. It does have 300, and I'm saying it because we're in London and it's usually quite cloudy and like drizzly, but it has 300 plus days of sunny weather, just like your home island of Cyprus, Maria. So glorious
Yeah.
weather.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Although I think
Um,
Cyprus does enjoy a bit more sun than Rhodes, but per year, but they're probably around the, not far off from each other.
Not far off, yeah. And then last up, there is actually an animal that is associated with the island of Rhodes, and it's kind of the island symbol. But before I say any more about that, we actually interviewed someone, so we're going to head over and hear about this directly from a local.
The deer, it's the most characteristic symbol of Rhodes. First of all, it's a fallow deer that lives only on the island of Rhodes. It's under protection, and the biological name of it is Dama Dama.
Mm-hmm.
There are many stories about the deer, how it became the symbol of Rhodes. The most prevailing opinion is that the deer saved us from the snakes. This is why we have it as symbol. That's a myth. But there is a little bit truth behind that myth. Because the name of the island, before it was named Rhodos in the ancient times, was Ophiusa.
Mm-hmm.
Ophis in Greek means snake. So the island used to have snakes. The island didn't have deers in that period, but the knights that lived in that period bring the deer for food, for hunting, for all these activities that they wanted to do. And probably due to the food chain, the snakes also reduced. But in that period, they didn't know about food chain.
Right, of course.
And think that the deer saved the island from the snakes.
Amazing. So, everyone, now you know that the deer is the symbol of Rhodes. And also, if you are on specific parts of the island, you actually might get to see some, right?
Yes, and the south part of Ireland, probably you will meet them even on the road. They're totally harmless. They don't do nothing. They're just searching for food. So if you carry something with you, just
Feed them.
feed them. Just
Exactly. Well, Michael, thank you very much.
Well,
It was lovely for you.
So the voice we just heard is Michalis Evstathiou, who has a souvenir shop in the medieval castle in Rhodes, where all products are made in Greece. The shop is called Oh Dear Me, where deer is spelt Deer, like the national animal of the island. So when you visit Rhodes, make sure to visit this souvenir shop and let Michalis know how much you enjoyed this story that he shared with us. Although it did take a bit of convincing, I'm not going to lie. So we are very grateful to Michalis for actually sharing that story with us and subsequently with you. Now, let's get back into the episode and take a look at when is the best time to visit the island of Rhodes. So, we're back and let's talk about when to go to Rhodes. Now, Rhodes is a destination you can visit probably most months of the year, even during the winter, despite many people thinking that it's a summer getaway. Now, during autumn and winter, you can probably enjoy the island you can enjoy the island much quieter and, enjoy the historic sites without the crowds. But you can also engage with the locals who are so welcoming. Now, due to its geographical location, Rhodes, as we said, enjoys lots of sunny days and longer and dry summers. So you can also consider a late summer holiday, like, for example, September or October. March to May can be great for hikes due to the mild temperatures, and there are some great hikes to do in Rhodes. Now, just a few ideas of other times when you can go and some specific events that happen during the year that might be worth keeping in mind to combine with your trip to Rhodes is number one, which is probably great for most destinations in Greece, is the Greek Orthodox Easter, which is usually sometime in April or early May. In Rhodes, you also have St. Paul's Feast, which is at the end of June. You have the festival at the beginning of September of Panagia Tsambika, which we're going to talk about further down. You have in October the Rhodes International Film Festival. You have the Rhodes International Jazz Festival. And you also have the Medieval Rose Festival, which celebrates the island's medieval history in the old town, featuring nights, reenactments, markets, and performances. So we will put all of these names in the show notes in case you want to look them up and see whether you would like to visit Rhodes during any of these events. And of course, if you're the sporty type, like George, then there are various sports events happening throughout the year, like, for example, the Rhodes Marathon. And there is a windsurfing beach that we will talk about further down.
Yeah, I mean, correction on the sporty type. I think that was maybe a few years ago. I don't think I could commit to a marathon again for a while. But if any of that has kind of tickled your fancy, the easiest way to get to Rhodes is to fly into the the Agoras airport. It is very, very well connected to countries in Europe with, traditionally more frequent flights during those summer months. But it is connected all year round with domestic flights from Athens, Thessaloniki, and some other places. Although I think our research showed that there were some flights kind of starting even March, April time, weren't they, this year? So season.
Yep. There seems to be like one flight a week, for example, from the UK out of season. But then also the domestic flights, there are some interesting routes. Like, for example, there seems to be a route to Paréa. There seems to be a route to Castellorizo. So, like, there's some very interesting routes which need to be kept in mind. But definitely, like, from abroad, you can fly from the UK.
Yeah. So, fun fact, the airport is named the Agoras of Rhodes after a legendary boxer from the 5th century BC. Now, last summer, I don't think I know, Maria flew directly from the UK whilst I took a domestic flight from Athens. And I think you were probably delayed, or I was there much earlier because I've got footage of you somewhere like landing and be like, oh, she's arrived.
Yeah, I don't remember if I was delayed. You definitely landed before me and had to wait. But what I do remember from that flight was that despite that George is the one that's usually on time at the airport and I'm the one that's late, that specific flight I left and I sort of like budgeted 3 hours before the flight for some reason. And thankfully that I did that, because I took the wrong train and ended up having to go back on myself and lost a whole hour of my journey. So ended up getting to the airport sort of on time. But sure. And then you were waiting for me. But we've got like a video of this, I think. There's a reel on My Greek Island, which is worth watching for some giggles, I guess. But before we move on to the next section of the podcast, another great way maybe not a great, but another way to reach Rhodes is by ferry with a connection to Athens. Although, and the reason I said it's probably not a great option is because you would probably only use this option if you're traveling with a car, due to the fact that it's a very, very long ride. So, for example, it takes about 13 hours. And the cost is actually equivalent to what you would pay from Athens just for a passenger. So if it would that, as I said before, it would probably only make sense if you're taking a car, or maybe if you're taking a boat from a neighboring island, and clearly that's the best way to get there. Now, moving on, we are going to talk about how long you need in Rhodes and some potential combinations. So some potential islands nearby or that you can combine with Rhodes. So as a rule of thumb, I think, George, correct me if I'm wrong, we would recommend a minimum of 5 days just to scratch the surface. Although I think, and we did stay for about over a week. So I think the best amount of time is probably a week to 10 days. And despite the fact that Rhodes is a trip in itself, there are islands nearby which you can combine with Rhodes. And the easiest, we would probably say, are number one, Halki, which is very close by. And although many people do visit it just for the day, we recommend that you stay at least one night. Don't you agree?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, 100 at least, because we wish we stayed longer.
Yeah, we
So-
stayed one night, but we do wish we stayed longer. It's a super peaceful island, beautiful port, a few beaches, but beautiful beaches, perfect to relax, switch off, avoid the crowds, and the locals are really cool. To reach Halki, you can go either from the main port of Rhodes, which is about a 2-hour trip, and the routes from there are less frequent, or from Gamiroskala, which has daily routes, and the time is about an hour on the boat. However, note that to get to Gamiroskala, it's about an hour drive from Rhodes town. But if you have a car, you can park it. You can park it right next to the port, as you won't need a car in Halki.
And next up is the island of Simi, which is probably the more well-known island to combine it with, which is super close to Rhodes. I think it's just an hour and a half on the boat. A lot of people can do it in a day trip, although you did it last year and recommend at least 2 nights. There's lots of beaches that you take a boat around the island to visit, which is pretty cool. And the main port and the town, the neoclassical colourful houses, which a lot of people will have seen, is really nice. And I guess from your experience in the evening, does it get a bit quieter because the day trippers have gone? Or
No, there's many people that do stay. So I think Halki is more of a
Halki,
day
you
tripper.
got the sense when the day tripper's gone, the island just seemed like
it's
empty,
not
which
like
is
that in
amazing.
Simi, but although you do get a lot of yachts in Simi, so that
okay.
is something to bear in mind. Now, the next destination that we're going to chat about is Castellorizo. Castellorizo is one of the most remote Greek islands, and it is another one that you will not need a car. So far, Halki, Simi, and Castellorizo, you will not need a car. You can reach the island either by ferry, but there are also flights from Rhodes. And Castellorizo is very famous for its blue cave, which is one of the biggest sea caves in Europe. And then just to wrap it up, if you would, you have a bit more time and you would like to combine Rhodes with some other nearby islands, which do need a bit more time than the previous 3 we have mentioned, then you can consider Karpathos, Kassos, and Astypalia. And for Karpathos and Astypalia, we have dedicated episodes that you can find out more information on.
Yeah, and check out. And also you can see the stories on Instagram to see what you could potentially be doing. Now, you don't need me to tell you who the island of Rhodes is for, because the answer is every type of traveler, basically. If you're traveling with kids, as a couple, or solo, or 2 friends like Maria and I think the one caveat is, having some form of transportation is highly recommended to explore the island beyond the main tourist areas if you're looking to do it the My Greek Island way. And maybe you don't want to drive as much, because we did a lot of driving around the island. But listen up, because we're going to give you a bit of a hack and what we would suggest to do to reduce the amount of driving. So yeah, in terms of what there is to do, we're going to cover something now, or a few things.
Right, my Greek Islanders. Although we initially recorded this episode as a single episode, we clearly had a lot to say, and it came out a bit long. So, in order to not, tire you with listening to our voices, although we know you love to listen to us, we have decided to split it into 2. So make sure to tune in to part 2, where we're going to talk about what you can do, activities, culture, where to stay, and much, much more. And additionally, part 2 also comes with bonus content for our Patreon subscribers. Also, in the meantime, we have prepared an additional special episodes on Rhodes, all coming out in this season. So stay tuned, like, subscribe to get notified when they do come out. But for now, let's head back and listen to the initial ending that we had recorded and also get that Greek phrase from George.
So yeah, I think we've said a lot for part
We
one. There's going to be
have.
more to come. But before we go, as we do with every episode, we give you a Greek word and it's going to be a phrase today. Now, in the spirit of bumping into friends on the island, we thought it would give you the phrase to say with friends or a more Greek way, which is like with a group of friends or with a group of people. So the word for with friends is me philus, or with a group, usually friends or people you are close with, is me paréa. So if you want to say I'm going to Rhodes with friends or with a group of friends, you would say πάω στη Ρόδο με φίλους. So I'm going to Rhodes with friends, πάω στη Ρόδο με φίλους, or with a group, πάω στη Ρόδο με παρέα. Πάω στη Ρόδο με παρέα. And not to be confused, it's not like a group as in you're going on a group trip. It's like a group of people you know and friends, right? Usually like a close group.
Yeah, but even if you want to make it even more personal, like this group of friends that you're going with are very, very close friends of yours,
Yes.
and those friends of yours that you hang out quite a lot with, you would say με την παρέα μου, like you would add
Yeah,
more at the end.
it would.
So that makes it even more, I guess, a closed circle kind of
Yeah.
buddies.
Yes. That's a good, a close circle of like buddies. That's a good way of saying it.
Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Because some things can't be translated like
Yeah, they can't.
like me paréa. It's like with a group. Like no, it's like a group of friends.
It's a group of friends, but then when you say like me paréa with a group of friends, but then when you say με την παρέα μου, like which is mine, it's
Mine.
my group of friends.
Possessive, mine. They're my friends. But yeah.
But yes, is that a wrap?
I think it is. We've said enough for part one.
Yes, as we said, this is just part one. We've just scratched the surface, and we do plan to be back with more. So if there's something specific that you want us to cover on Rhodes, let us know. But until then, thank you for listening to this episode, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Γεια σας.
Γεια σας. Right, my Greek Islanders. This comes to the end of another episode of this podcast.
Now you know the drill. If you like this episode, share it to share the love with the My Greek Island community, where everyone is welcome. And
Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, and all that jazz. And maybe give us a little rating from wherever you're listening to us from, so you are notified every time a new episode drops. And if you have any suggestions or requests, get in touch.
And for those of you visiting Greece, don't forget to tag at My Greek Island on Instagram for a future feature. Until then, see you later, or as they say in Greek,
Ta leme.